Don't forget to check out and grab your copy of our 2 newly released books, Football, a Love Story, and What Did Football Teach Me? These books feature over 100 stories from current and former coaches, players, executives, and entertainers from across the football landscape, describing what got them involved in the game, what they love about it, and what life lessons the game taught them. You can find your copy or order your copy from our website at footballgameplan.com/books. Now, Gene, moving over to the FCS, and I think this is just, again, just proof positive that the FCS has gotten tremendously better as far as the recruiting aspect is concerned. When you look at teams like North Dakota State that have consistently put out great talent that's underrated. They've rated the state of Minnesota. They've put a fence around North Dakota, and they are our number one team as far as the FCS recruiting rankings are concerned. When you look at their class, who stands out to you the most?
Well, you're right. They've rated Minnesota. They put a fence around the Dakotas, but they've also began to reach that arm out into the state of Florida. They did so last year, and they've done so again this year with defensive back out of Clearwater, Felix Dixon. He's a guy who's long, who's rangy, and a young man who like some others can come in and be a contributor from day one. I know that they're losing some people in the defensive backfield, so it's going to be important for them to replace those guys. I like for this young man who had offers at higher quote unquote higher level places, who decided, hey, I want to go and compete for national championships at North Dakota State.
Yeah, 5 straight national championships is unheard of. Carson Schoening, the offensive lineman, at 6'4", 320. Another guy that can go in and probably play early right away for that Bison offensive line. Now, looking at number 2, and this is interesting. Now, looking at our number 2 team here at the FCS level, Chattanooga, I thought they've done a great job quietly over the last 7 seasons. They were in the playoffs last year. They've constantly put out pro talent on the defensive side of football, and I think this year will be no different. There's 2 defensive lineman transfers coming in. They don't normally recruit transfers. They recruit high school, they redshirt guys, and I spoke with head coach Russ Huesman earlier in the week on signing day about that process, and let's just go right to what he had to say about this recruiting class and their recruiting process.
This class, one of the most critical guys was the quarterback we got out of CPA in Nashville, Zach Weatherly. We had to get a slam dunk guy this year. We didn't sign, we don't have one in the previous 2 classes, and we had to have a great one in this class, and we felt like this one is as good as we could get, no question.
And when you look, let's say, as far as the process, because you guys have been tremendous over the last couple seasons, playoffs last year, at what point in your building process do you think this recruiting class can have an impact, maybe getting you guys over the hump? You think this is that class that you see getting you guys, let's say, to Frisco?
Well, the 2 big junior college guys obviously have to play and have to be really good next year for us. This is the first time we've recruited junior college players, and both of them were bounce back guys, one from Syracuse and one from Western Kentucky. But we feel they have to come in and be very, very productive. The rest of the guys, we're going to do it the same way we've always done it. We try to redshirt as many as we can, and get them to be, redshirt juniors and redshirt seniors, and that's when they're the best. And when you can load up a team and have a bunch of redshirt juniors and redshirt seniors, that's when you can win a national championship. So, I would anticipate the bulk of these guys redshirting. We may play a freshman or 2, and then obviously the 2 junior college kids. But other than that, we had a game plan 7 years ago when we showed up here that we were going to sign high school kids for the most part, develop them, redshirt them, and get them to be 5th-year seniors. And we did that also with my son, who was a 5th-year senior this year. We redshirted him, and I think it's been a really good game plan for us.
And final question, Coach, ties into what you just said. When you're recruiting guys, you see nowadays a lot of schools want to throw freshmen into the mix very early, and you're standing true to form with that old school approach, which I like and I appreciate. The whole red shirt and getting these guys groomed first before you throw them into action. Do you find that that philosophy working out there on the recruiting trail? And is almost like that used to be the norm, but now guys are getting enticed to play early. Do you think guys appreciate the fact that they get the chance to develop and learn?
I think they ultimately do, but I think every one of these guys that we sign, and probably anybody else, they probably all feel like they're ready, capable to go play anywhere they're going their freshman year. And and then sometimes reality sets in that they do have to develop a little bit. At the FCS level and probably lower level FBS, I mean, you have to develop kids. I mean, you have to take a 250-pound kid and say, we're going to project him to be 290 in 2.5 years. And now he's ready to go. And you got to do that. But, a lot of these kids at our level aren't ready to play their freshman year because they're either undersized, or some of those things. But I know every one of the kids we're signing feels like they can come in and play. And that's a great attitude to have. And I'm glad they have that attitude. But, if they're not going to play significant snaps on offense or defense, then we're not going to put them in on special teams and burn redshirt years on these kids. We're going to try to save as many as we can.
You can see why Coach Huseman has had a lot of success, Gene, at Chattanooga. What were your thoughts on this class?
I thought it was a great class. You've already alluded to the defensive line transfers they have coming in. I also look out for a quarterback prospect. They only brought in one quarterback this year, Zach Weatherby, whom I believe is the next person up. He has all the intangibles, all the tools that help him be a great quarterback. He'll probably get into that system. They'll probably redshirt him, allow him to grow, allow him to mature, and then turn him loose and let him do his thing. And you have to love that program who understands who they are, and they don't try to go beyond what they normally do.
And you look at Derek McHaffey, the defensive lineman, one of the defensive lineman transfers. He's going to get great coaching down there by their new defensive line coach, Kerry Bailey, who has had success at University of Louisiana, at Minnesota, at Middle Tennessee, at Howard, at Lamar recently. So they've got great coaching to go along with great talent. This is a guy that's nearly 300 pounds that moves like a 230-pound outside linebacker. They're going to cause a lot of havoc up front. Now, looking at the Ivy League making a debut on our list at the top 5, Yale, I thought, did a great job. They had a lot of 3-star prospects committing and signing with the Bulldogs. Talk a little bit about Yale and what they were able to bring to the table this season.
Well, people have seen Yale over the past few years. They've been consistent, and even beyond, they were consistent with putting together a program that is a winning program, a winning tradition, a program where people are getting an opportunity to take a shot at the NFL. And when you look at some of these young men that they're bringing in, these young men are making the decision of, hey, you know what? My education and my life go far beyond football. I'm using football as that tool to take advantage of a great Ivy League experience. If you look at the defensive end they've got coming in, Charles Callender, he's a long, athletic defensive end. He's a little undersized right now, but what Yale does a great job of is getting them into their weight program and allowing those young men to mature. I remember a young man out of Tampa that went up there a few years ago, Mikael Reese, who started off as like a 225, 230-pound defensive end, and he is grown into 285-pound, 290-pound defensive lineman. So they do a great job of getting them into the program and then putting that weight on them that they need for them to be successful. Look for Charles Callender to be a guy who's the next one up in the line to be a really good force for Yale, especially when they have to take on the Crimson.
And you mentioned the Crimson. I'm going to go on to the defensive line. I'm seeing on the other side of the line of scrimmage. You went D-line. I went offensive line with Sterling Struther, the outstanding offensive tackle, 6'5", 262. Another guy that comes in at 262, but by the time he's done, he's going to be at least 300 pounds of lean muscle, and he has tremendous athleticism. They were able to bring him in coming from California, and that's the one unique part, I think, about the Ivy League programs. I know Harvard had a good class this year as well, but they're able to recruit nationally, unlike a lot of these other FCS programs. They can really go from east to west coast without a problem I think bringing in this class for Yale could help them get right back in the mix of the Ivy League race. Now, you look at number 4, Stephen F. Austin. I just thought by far one of the best classes, not only just in the FCS, but clearly in the Southwind Conference. They brought in 24 guys, I believe, and one of the guys that stands out to me the most is from right there in their own backyard in Nacogdoches, Texas, Alex Gregory, the cornerback at 6'1", 180. What were your thoughts on Stephen F. Austin's class?
I thought they did a great job. I thought they put together a class. They brought in some transfers that I thought they needed to help them to continue to be a great program right now. Offensive tackle from Blinn Community College. Blinn's been getting a lot of love lately because of the Cam Newton story, but 6'6", 344 pounds. This is a big, large, road grader type of offensive lineman, a guy who can really help in the run game and get the push that they're looking for at that tackle position. I don't know if he's a left tackle right now. I think he may be a right tackle coming in, but he's definitely somebody. When you get a community college guy, you're looking for guys that come in and start right now. So look for him to be playing somewhere for them this year.
And you also look at number 5, Coastal Carolina. And they have a tremendous campus, tremendous program. Joe Moglia has done a great job with that program since he took over. And I think they've recruited well. They have a great class this year. Some say they're probably the best in the FCS. But I really like one of the transfers they got, and Marcus Outlaw from Boston College, a running back. I've been to 3 Boston College games in the past 2 seasons. And he's one of those guys, when you see him get minimal carries, like 2 to 3 carries a game, you just instantly see like the talent that this guy has. But unfortunately, he was behind 3 different tailbacks that they've had at Boston College, which are all great. They've recruited well in the backfield. He obviously wants a chance to play, and he can do it on both ends as a receiver and also as a runner. So I think adding that transfer from BC at 5'10", 205, Outlaw, can definitely bolster this class, and I can see why people thought it was, worthy of the top spot. What were your thoughts on the CHANTICLEERS recruiting class?
Well, I agree. Sometimes it just happens, and this is the beauty of college athletics, is that these young men get an opportunity to take that second chance. The running back, he's in a situation where he's 3rd or 4th on the depth chart because 1, 2, and 3 are all guys who are probably going to make money playing running back one day. There have been several instances like that. So when you get him as a transfer, you get someone who's hungry. You get someone who wants to prove that he was every bit the man that the rest of those running backs were, and so that's a great thing. They also added a quarterback, Avery McCall, a guy who I think can be a difference maker, running the ball as well as throwing the ball, giving that dynamic on both ends of the spectrum, and causing a nightmare for a lot of defenses. So you really have to love what Coastal Carolina's doing. Their facilities are beautiful, and they're going to continue to draw people to them because that's a great place to be.
So Bethune-Cookman also is one of these underrated classes, Gene, and to say that Brian Jenkins, you thought that Brian Jenkins was going to take all the recruiting talent with him as far as being able to recruit the state, but Quiet has kept that coaching staff that they've put together, has done a solid job picking up right where Jenkins left off.
Well, yeah, and one of the keys is that they were able to retain Laura McCray, who is the recruiting coordinator and the tight ends coach there. So they kept the continuity in how they recruited at Bethune-Cookman when Jenkins decided to move on. That helps. They were also able to add a young, energetic coach who knows the state of Florida in Will Glover. He's a former running back / wide receiver from Georgia Tech who went over to UCF with George O'Leary when O'Leary was at UCF. And this past year, he moved on to Bethune-Cookman to be the full-time wide receivers coach there. And so he has a foothold into the state of Florida, and he has that cachet of being a guy who was renowned in the state of Florida, but also who did it at a high level in college, at the college ranks as well. So I believe that helped them to bring in some young men that they may not have been able to bring in had those guys not come through.